I'm Kara Infante, and this is Bookish Flights. In each episode, I chat with one bookish guest as we take some time to sample and savor the pairing recommendations from their bookish flight. We hope to give you suggestions to cultivate your TBR list and nurture your leisure time through books. In today's episode, I am chatting with Alexie Better. Alexie is the founder of the Better Multisensory Learning Centre in Melbourne, Australia. She has over 14 years' experience working as a specialist tutor, developmental educator, autism therapist, student counselor, and assisting individuals with dyslexia, autism, ADHD, and other specific learning difficulties. Alexie works with children, adolescences, and adults who present with a wide variety of learning challenges, focusing on literacy and numeracy development, along with preparing students for their final years of high school. Alexie is also an adolescent counselor who provides practical support for struggling students, parents, and teachers. Welcome to the show, Alexie.
Hello. How you going?
I am so glad to have you on. I'm doing great over here. It's a sunny, beautiful day in San Diego.
Oh,
How about you? It's
that
summer on your end of the
it
world.
is summer. It was absolutely beautiful yesterday. So today is looking a little bit cloudy, but it's still beautiful weather outside. So fingers crossed that we have a lovely summer this year. So,
Yes. Oh, it makes me think of like, wait, so you have Christmas and summer every year.
yep. Yep. We can't wear those Christmas jumpers or anything like that. It is t-shirts and shorts and dresses, and it's a little bit easier when you've eaten, Christmas lunch and dinner because you have very nice and relaxing clothing. But
Yes.
it's really nice with all the summer dresses for Christmas. So it's nice.
Yeah, it sounds beautiful. My husband is in the military, so we move a lot. And so we've lived various places that don't experience winter. And so people are like, oh, I need the four seasons because I need that cold winter, come Christmas season. And it's like, you just don't even have the option. But I feel like if you grew up there, I mean, that's what you know. It's no different.
That's right. I don't think I could manage a cold Christmas. I'm not a big cold person, but my son is dying for a cold Christmas. So we will do it one year. We'll go somewhere, maybe overseas. So yeah,
I was
one
going
day.
to ask if you have to leave Australia to get it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot get any snow in summertime here, not even at the top of the hills. So
Nothing in
yeah.
the higher elevation that would get you that. No. Oh, well, I
Yeah.
love that. It dawned on me as I was talking, like, wait, your Christmas is always warm.
Yep. No, love it. Different types of desserts and dinners and things. It's really nice. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any then holidays that you celebrate that are solidly in winter though that you have?
No, we don't
Okay.
really. Most of the public holidays and other holidays, they're all in the warmer times of year. So yeah, there's nothing really in the middle of the year. We have one public holiday, which is the Queen's birthday
Okay.
still. But it's a public holiday. We don't really,
Do a big
celebrate it.
celebration.
No. Everything else is around, the January and February and November and December. So yeah, we have like this long break of nothingness in the middle of winter. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's so
Dragging forward.
interesting. Well, let's switch gears a little bit. I feel like you have so many different jobs, and they're also, I mean,
Yeah,
I imagine they're linked together, but tell us a
all
little bit
linked
about
together.
who you are.
Yeah, sure. So my journey actually really starts when I was 11, which is really a long time ago. I couldn't actually read until I was 11. So I was diagnosed with dyslexia at the age of 11. And learning, school, reading was so tough. And my parents weren't quite sure what was going on. And it took like an amazing teacher, my 10, 11, 10 when I was diagnosed and 11 when I started reading. But my grade 4 teacher was like, I think your daughter has dyslexia. Now, my mum's a psychologist and she's like, okay, all right, what are we going to do here? Let's just do everything. And so that really started my journey. But before that, I hated reading.
Yeah.
Couldn't understand what was on the page. I didn't know any of the letters. I didn't know any of the rules. And I hated school and I hated anything to do. You mentioned books and I would run away,
Yeah. I imagine
And
like the stress of what you felt as a child. Like all my peers can do this and I can't, and it's so confusing. Like I just,
yeah, absolutely. Like I just remember school, anything below grade 5 was, I just felt lonely and lost and just so scared of like that whole time in my life. And this beautiful grade 4 teacher, like she still like hits home, like every time I think about her, she just really made books and made learning so fun. Like, we were learning about the Egyptians and, she would make like different stories and we'll watch different movies, and she just really got us so engaged with it where I go, oh my God, this is just so much fun. I've never enjoyed learning as much as I
yeah.
have in my entire life. And that really resonated with me for a very long time. And before my journey really began, she really worked with me a lot one-on-one. And it was about 6 months after working with me one-on-one that I was doing a school holiday program and I was bored out of my mind doing this school holiday program. And I remember walking around the room during the school holiday program, and there was a book on the table, and it was The Secret Garden. And I go, oh, that's such a beautiful cover. I really like it. And I just opened the first page and I just started reading. And I
Yeah.
go, wow, that's so nice. And I remember pulling the book and sitting in a corner in it with a beanbag. And I started reading for pleasure for the very first time in my life. And
Oh,
I was hooked. I was so hooked. And I dedicate, all the time and all the effort my grade 4 teacher did with me,
yeah.
because if it wasn't for her, I don't know where I'd be right now. That's what I keep saying in my head. So
I love
it
that. It
was,
almost brings tears to my eyes of this like breakthrough
yeah,
moment that you
it
had.
was such, yeah. And now I love books. I have my own little library, and The Secret Garden was my first ever book that I read for pleasure. And it's anytime The Secret Garden comes up or I see it, it's so sentimental to me. So yeah. So that's how it all started, just being diagnosed and, going through that journey. And then when I was finishing high school, I was like, okay, what do I want to do?
Hmm.
And my mum, who completely changed her career in psychology, she actually was starting to assist children more with dyslexia.
Okay.
And she was like, oh, you're so good with all the little kids, because sometimes I would go help her at work and I would, look after the kids in between testing. And she's like, I really think you should do teaching. And I'm like, oh my gosh, teaching, like that's going to be so hard. And she goes,
Yeah.
you've just finished high school, you're about to finish high school, you can do this next part. And I was like, yes, you're right. And I said I didn't want to just do teaching. I want to make sure that I'm a teacher that can really help these kids,
Yeah.
because if it wasn't for that grade 4 teacher, I don't know where I'd be at. And I want to make sure that no other kid is left behind. I want to make sure that every kid feels so positive with their learning and have fun. And so that's where it all began, really.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And I love that this one teacher was so influential in your life that she also influenced your career path too.
Yes, yes. So, Mrs. Newton, if you're listening, it's because of you, and I still think of you so often with all of my kids, and yeah, that's how it all started. And so now I dedicate we work with kids from 5 years old right up to adulthood, and
Okay.
kids or adults or teenagers who are neurodivergent, and learning is just challenging. And I just give them different tools, different strategies on how to approach learning. And they really value that, just I understand their brains because I have the same brain.
Yeah.
And some of my year 12s this year just, got their ATARs, and, I'm crying with pride because of how
Yeah.
hard they worked after all their years of dedication. So, yeah, it's been very exciting.
So what would you, I'm thinking of maybe parents that are listening to this. What would you say to maybe to the parents listening of to look for in your kids to maybe see if they are struggling within school? Because maybe they are in classrooms with big class sizes and the teacher, maybe the teacher isn't picking that out. Like what type of things would you want parents to look for?
Well, if a child is struggling, it's, I don't believe in lazy. Lazy is not the right word. It's more that they don't have the right learning style for them,
Sure.
or they don't know how to approach studying. So a lot of my kids with, neurodiversity, different dyslexia or ADHD, sometimes they don't know how to study. So I teach them different study skill techniques,
Okay.
or I teach them different, comprehension strategies, because those little tips and tricks and strategies are going to help them in the classroom.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time when a child is feeling overwhelmed or there's avoidant, it's because they don't know how to start or they don't know what to do. And someone hasn't explicitly taught them, okay, I'm going to scaffold this for you and this is how we're going to start. But that's really hard for a parent to see because, they're not teachers, they're not
Yeah.
educators. But it would be a conversation to have with the kids, or just to spend a couple of minutes when you're doing some homework study with them and go, okay, what learning strategies work for you? Or is there a different way that I can explain this?
Yeah.
I'm constantly changing the way that I explain my approaches to the kids because not every kid is the same. So yeah, that's a bit of a challenging question, but just to be really open and honest with the kids, and um just go, is there somebody else that I can help get for you to help you with this journey? That
Sure.
it really does open up a lot of doors for them too.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say is we're lucky that we have people like you, right? Of like, okay, we might be able to just see, okay, there's something going on here. We don't quite know what it is because we are
No.
not trained to look for these things, but there are people like you that we can go to, like how can we help them? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
would
Yeah.
you, I mean, I guess maybe like if their grades are, I mean, I don't know, even grading these days is so different. I think my oldest is 8. So it's like even grading is so different than what I had as a kid. So I guess you can't always um, assess that way.
Yeah. And also what we're teaching the kids now compared to 10, 20 years ago is so different. Um, the education department, around many different countries now are focusing more on phonics and focusing on those spelling rules and things like that,
Hmm.
where it wasn't like that in the past. We would teach whole learning, so we'd teach the whole word. And for children with dyslexia or autism or anything, they can't memorize a whole word. So it's really great that education around the world is changing for the better for
Yeah.
these kids. So yeah, but not all parents know the rules. So, it's a journey not just for the kids, but also for the parents too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I sometimes think that with the math, right? I'm like, I don't know. This wasn't how I learned math. I could tell you how to do it this way, but I don't, I mean, we could try. We'll work together. I almost have to like go back a few pages to like look at like, how did they explain this? So I can like make sure I'm like following through with what the
The
teacher's
same
saying and
stuff.
not confusing him by saying something different.
Yeah. I'm constantly going, okay, how did your teacher explain it? Okay, you didn't understand it that way. Here's a different way for me to explain it. Does that way work?
Yeah,
And then if it does work, then I let the teachers know and I let the parents know. It's the
sure.
same premise, it's the same approach, but just explained differently. And 9 out of 10 times that seems to work.
Yeah. So for your
Yeah.
students, are you working mostly in person with them or do you do online? How do you do that?
I do a little bit of both. It does depend on the child. So a lot of my teenagers, I try and see them online during a free period if I
Okay.
can. So they're less fatigued after school. But for my little kids, I really try to see them one-on-one in person. But every session is all one-on-one. I don't like to do small group just purely because every child is so different. Every
Yeah.
child progresses as fast or as slow as they need. So yes, so we've got in in the clinic, online, and we either teach literacy or numeracy and study skill preparation for final years into university.
Wow. I mean, this is like you have the full spectrum here. That's amazing. And do you do
Yeah.
it all or do you work with others?
So we have 7 staff members,
Wow.
so 7 educators. We also have a counsellor and we also have an educational psychologist.
Wow.
But I also do work with a range of different pediatricians and speech pathologists and things like that. So if there is any referrals, I have a team that I know, I work with and I trust, and I go, okay, this is your child, this is their journey, let me help you and let
Yeah.
me guide you. Because a lot of the time when a parent has that formal diagnosis, they go, okay, what do I need to do? And I go, okay, let me help you. This is
Yeah.
step 1, this is step 2, this is step 3. And it just alleviates all that pressure from the parent.
Yeah, I imagine. I mean, just getting a diagnosis can be a very overwhelming if you don't feel like you have. And I feel like we're just ingrained as people to be like, okay, how do we tackle this problem now? Or not problem, but this diagnosis. What are we going to do to manage it? And
Yes.
if you don't know where to turn, it's your first time out the gate, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I don't know where the specialists are or who I need to follow up with.
Absolutely. So it's kind of my job to, well, not my job, but I love to help the parents. I love to make sure that they don't feel alone because it is a big journey.
Yeah.
And I do have those contacts and I go, okay, this is the plan and I'm not going to go anywhere. So if your child is 8, 9, 10, okay, if you would like me to start working with them, I'm happy to work with them for as long as you need.
Yeah.
And that's what some of my longest clients have been 10, 11 years because we've started at a really early age, but learning has evolved, the challenges at school has evolved and so on and so forth. So even though we might start with phonics, we then end up, finishing the program on exam preparation. But, the evolution of the program changes with their learning, you know,
Yeah.
and their schooling and everything.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, I'm a physical therapist by trade.
Hmm.
There's a lot of advocacy that needs to be done like on behalf of the patient within the healthcare system, and I imagine the education system here in America is the same in Australia.
Very, very similar. Yeah,
Yeah.
very similar. Yeah. There's actually a lot more dyslexic friendly schools in the States than
Okay.
compared to Australia. Australia is starting to evolve and change, and we're starting to have these dyslexic friendly schools, but not just targeting dyslexia, it's just implementing different strategies. So, but also teaching teachers, it's not part of their
Yeah.
everyday, they're not taught at university. Okay, this is a dyslexic, this is their specific learning style, or this is a child with ADHD, this is their specific learning style. You know, there's further training that they
Yeah.
have to do following that first degree. And it takes time and it takes experience. And yeah, you have to see all the different types. And work experience is really, really important for that, I always felt. So yeah.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah. I deep dived in at 15. My mum's like, okay, you need a job. All right, here you go. Come
Yeah.
to my clinic. These are all my kids. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I imagine it's the same. I remember in PT school, right? I mean, everything you're like you're learning so black and white at that point. Like if you see a patient with knee pain, this is exactly what you're going to do, right? And it life is not like that. And I
yeah.
imagine that exactly to your point of We are all different. Everybody's going to present differently. Everybody's going to learn differently. And so you really have to be in there doing the work of seeing these students to know, and then trying things to be like, oh, that worked or that didn't work. And then just recalibrating for that specific student.
Yes, absolutely. And it's really hard for brand new teachers coming right out of university. They really do need more time in the classroom. And, I'm so grateful for mentors because they have such a wealth of knowledge to teach the new teachers coming out, because it's all of these experiences and all these kids that they pass on their knowledge. So yeah.
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 That's a beautiful relationship there of like passing the
Yeah.
knowledge down, right? Like paying it forward. Because I'm sure there was people that helped them too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So,
Well, let's switch gears a little bit here and let's talk about, so now that you love reading and you love books, who you
yeah.
are as a reader. What genres do you normally read?
So, I absolutely love, books with one, romance. I'm a big romance person,
Okay.
but I also really love books with magic and, fiction, and just I love that type of world. And I think it all kind of stemmed from because of my dyslexia. And I always thought to myself when I was growing up, oh, I just wish I'd have a normal brain. And magic was a way to like change that. I don't know. I was thinking about that the other day, where now I wouldn't change my brain because it lets me do a range of different things that I never thought I could beforehand.
Yeah.
But as a reader, I love magic and I love the possibilities. Yeah, it doesn't matter what type of magic it is. I find it all interesting and different. So yeah, that's just me.
I love that. I have a question and it may seem naive because I don't really know. So you're talking about, okay, I have dyslexia and then I had tools to manage it. So now, do you ever cure dyslexia or do you just figure out how to manage it?
When I'm typing, sometimes I can really see my dyslexia come out if
Okay.
I'm doing multiple things at once, or if I'm feeling really sick, or I'm feeling sluggish. I can see that I reverse my letters, or I misspelt a word, or put a letter in the wrong place. It does seem a bit more pronounced in those areas,
Mm-hmm.
but it is about managing it. And because I do a lot of writing now, when I'm editing, I can see it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And that's what I pass on to my kids. I'm like, it's really hard for you right now, and essay
Yeah.
writing is really challenging for you. But I can promise you, at my age now, I go, okay, I can write an email, I can write an essay, and you can find your errors. But even though I might have dyslexia, well, another person who may not have dyslexia may still also find the same challenges. They just don't have a diagnosis. So that's I do definitely still see elements of it. It's just, yeah, managed and,
Yeah. And like you're saying, the more you've done it, right, it's just your brain knows the strategies to do it. So
correct.
unless it's like the fatigue is setting in around activities, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep. You can definitely tell if it's like the end of the week, it's 4 o'clock, and I'm going, oh, I didn't spell that word. Why didn't I spell that word? Well, I think I'm just tired now. So
Yeah. I know my mom has been here all week and I am definitely a morning person. And like sometimes we'll finally get the kids and I'll be like 8:30. She's like, do you want to it's Christmas season, right? So do you want to wrap Christmas gifts or do you want to get our recipes together for cookies? And I was like, my brain is mush right now. Like, let's wait. Let's do this in the morning. Like, I just have nothing left to give by the end of the day.
Yeah. And anyone would be the same. And I think for a dyslexic or a neurodivergent, we really do take it to heart going, why can't we do this? But
Yeah.
we have to give ourselves some grace and go, hey, it's the end of the week. Oh, hey, I've just been doing this for 8 hours, today. So,
And
yeah,
anybody would be really tired.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
With or without a diagnosis.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, well, you in your busyness, how do you find time to read in your day?
Well, at the moment, so a lot of my children or students, I should say, are going through transition. So they're going doing step up. So if they're in year 10, they're starting year 11. A
Okay.
lot of schools in Australia do like 2 weeks or a 1 week just for the children to get comfortable.
Okay. So do they go to the next, like it's like an overlap kind of?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't do that here. That's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Not all schools do, but a good majority do for the final years, just to
Okay.
give them a taste or just to know what their timetable is going to be, but also for them to know what are their books for the year.
Sure.
And it's normally in those 2 weeks that I go, okay, well, I've got new books to read over the summer holidays now. I'm currently have to read 15 books before I see all the kids in February.
Wow.
Um, That's my kind of journey at the
Yeah.
moment. But when I typically do read for my own self, I do have a book waiting for me on my bookshelf. And it's normally over the summer. I have like this week period where we're not doing anything over the Christmas break. And I just sit in my little chair and it's like a egg shaped
Oh, yeah.
rock chair sort of
Yeah.
thing. And yeah, I just sit there and I just read, but I've got like this 1 week grace. So I try to space it
Love
out and
that.
just my own time. And
So
it's
does
my
the
own.
school year start? When does the school year start for you guys?
It starts at the end of January, start of February. So
Okay.
I think a
All
lot
right.
of schools will go back on the 2nd of February.
Okay. I
Yeah.
love it. I'm learning so much about Australia today. Thank you.
No worries.
So, and again, just so different than what I've known in the States, right? Like
Yeah,
our
it's
summer
yeah.
is in June and July. So,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. We don't have it as long, mind you. Some schools are long and some schools are shorter, but
Okay.
majority of the public schools are 6 weeks.
Okay.
Um, and
Do they
some
do
of the,
year-round school then there? Kind of? Is it that? Okay.
yeah,
In San
we
Diego, they
do.
do as well. So I mean,
Yeah,
I'm learning that schedule now.
yep. But we do have, there's 4 terms.
Okay.
And each term consists of 9 to 11 weeks, depending. And after every term, all the kids get 2 weeks.
Okay.
Some get 3 weeks at one part, but
Yep.
those 2 weeks just re-engages the kids. They
Yeah.
have that mental little break. And you really do see a difference with the kids. They just need to have little bit
Yeah.
of time to catch up, get into gear, and also season changes as well. It just gets them into the next season,
Yeah.
flows really well. So I've always really valued that, and I really think that Australia's got that as part of their education system. I think it's very valuable for the kids.
Yeah, that's really neat. Yeah, we've been
Mm,
here about a year and a half with like the year-round school schedule. We were homeschooling when we moved here, so now we're like kind of just digging into what this means. But my neighbor was like, "Oh, I really like having a couple weeks off, and it's different than the rest of the state, so it makes
yeah.
traveling easier if you have to travel, or it's really
Yeah.
has its
Yeah.
benefits."
It does. It does. It really does. A lot of families who don't normally go away, they try to, cut out 1 week just family time. So
Hmm.
it's really nice. Nice to
Yeah,
hear that with all the kids here. So yeah.
I love that. Well, you have also been so gracious to prepare a book flight for us today. Can you tell us a little bit about how they pair together?
Yeah, sure. So my first book that I'm really recommending for my neurodivergent students is a book called A Perfectly Ordinary School. Now this is a dyslexic friendly book,
Okay.
and the reason why it is a dyslexic friendly book is that it's 80% decodable. So
Okay.
kids who struggle with sounding out words, kids who struggle with, letter to symbol recognition, they can apply that knowledge into the book.
That
And
is
only
so cool.
20%, yeah, and only 20% of the book is sight words, so words that don't follow the rules of spelling. And it really lets the children build on their reading fluency. And I've got to say, I'll just you can probably see it, but
Yeah.
anyone who's listening won't be able to see it. But in the books are tinted differently on the pages. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a yellow tint to it. The spacing, there's a lot more spacing with the writing. The font is that little bit bigger, and they've also chosen fonts that are more dyslexic friendly. Not all kids like the fonts, some kids do.
Okay.
Each to their own, but I really like that. If the kids can apply their knowledge of phonics, if they can see the words, spaced out a bit more, they can build on it.
Yeah, the confidence that builds for them, I bet is amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also the other thing that I love about not just this book, but I buy it from a company called Barrington Stokes, which is in the United Kingdom,
Okay.
that if a child is, say, 10 years old, but they've got a reading age of 7 or 8, you can find books for their interest level for a 10-year-old,
Okay.
but the book itself is targeted for a 7 or 8-year-old. So the language and the words and I
Yeah.
really like that because a lot of kids when they reach 10, 11, 12, they don't want to look like they're reading childish little books.
Yeah.
These books have been set up to be chapters, to be targeted for them. And, a lot of kids take that on and they thrive a lot more going, I can finally read and I don't look different. And,
That's
it's something
cool.
that I feel more confident with. So,
That's really
so
cool.
my book flight today is called A Perfectly Ordinary School. And did you want me to run through what the book's about a
Yeah,
little bit?
please give us a little
Yeah.
synopsis.
Yeah. So the main story is about a character who is really, really tall, and his name's Frankie. And so being really tall, he feels really different compared to all his peers at school. And he's got a really good friend named Molly, but she's like really, really short compared to everyone at school.
Okay.
But they're feeling very different. So the story follows Frankie and how he's doesn't like school very much, feels very different, and his parents notice that he's feeling really down about himself. So they decide to pull him out of mainstream school for a period of time and send him to what's called a monster school. And at Monster School, every day is a new lesson, and every day he learns different tricks and tips. So, one of the days he learns how to become a vampire. So, learn how to be how to exaggerate. And he does, I won't give too much away, but
Yeah.
he does learn some different tricks in there. And after the week of going to Monster School and learning different tips and tricks, he's finally making friends. He's finally building up his confidence for the first time in his life. And he goes back to his old school. And, you know, everyone wanted to tease him again, but he finally had the confidence to stand up and, tell them off. But
Yeah.
also, he learned to finally engage with them for the first time. And by the end of the book, the whole school, everyone wants to be friends. Everyone wants to be
I love
kind. No one
that.
is rude or bullying or anything like that. So it's a journey through bullying and self-esteem and all of that in a fun, engaging way. And the reason why I've chosen this book is a lot of my kids who are in the bracket of 10, 11, 12, they do struggle socially
Sure.
with peers. And it could be for a variety of reasons. It could be because of their learning and they know that they're being different. Or it could be for some of my kids with autism or dyslexia, they don't comprehend, they don't inference very well. So some
Sure.
of like those social cues or those jokes, they just don't understand them as well. So
Yeah.
then they feel different. Where I bring out this book and I go, hey, let's read this and let's talk about it. It comes into like a little bit of a counseling session, but also about a goal at the end and what can we do with these strategies. So do
Yeah.
a bit of learning, a bit of counseling, and better self-esteem building. And a good 90% of my kids love this story because they've gotten a goal, they've got an achievement to reach for themselves as well. I love this book.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I've had this book for so long too.
So when you go to Barrington Stoke, sorry, that's the publisher, you said,
Yes.
do they tell you like, okay, this book is geared towards this level of reading and but maybe age range of this? Like, because I feel like sometimes navigating that, right, of like with my son being 8, I'm like trying to figure out, is this book too far for him, right? Of like the concepts maybe they introduce. I feel like that is a challenge for us parents of like figuring out like what's going to land in their wheelhouse because it's not always labeled. So,
Yes, yes. So right at the back of the book, it actually does say, right at the where you can see the barcode, it actually says RA, so reading age, and
okay.
interest age as well.
Oh, I love
So
that. Okay.
that really tells a lot of information for the parents. So if they're getting assistance from a tutor or even their teachers at school or an allied health professional, they go, okay, if my child is 11, what is their actual reading age? Okay, if that's the case, I'm going to find some books that are going to interest them,
Yeah.
but are going to be accommodated for their needs. So,
Okay.
yeah, a lot of parents really value that.
100%. I could see where that would be. Okay, well,
Absolutely.
lovely. Thank you for sharing that one. That was A Perfect Ordinary School by Jeremy Strong. What is the next book of the pairing today?
And the next book is called Crazy Creatures. So same thing. It is a dyslexic friendly book. I am saying dyslexic friendly, but in all honesty, I use it across the board, no matter what the diagnosis,
Okay.
just because it is modified. But this one is more geared to boys. There might be a lot of girls. There might be, different individuals who might like it as well. I tend to use it more for my boys.
Okay.
It's they run through a range of different quirky and unusual creatures that we have in the world today. It's just a laugh out loud collection of amazing and true animal facts. Which child doesn't want to know
Yep.
about that, really? For example, we talk about the vampire bat, and we actually use vampire bat venom and the compounds in vampire bats for medicine today,
Yeah.
that we use in hospitals. And like kids really thrive off knowing those interesting facts,
Yeah.
really. And the chapters are really small. So a child might be able, or an individual, I should say, might be able to read it and it didn't take them as long and they've learned a valuable piece of information. And the amount of times the kids come out and they go, Mom, did you know this?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just they really get engaged with fact finding, and then we do more research. So it's that evolution again, get them hooked in regards to learning and reading and, something that's really going to engage them overall.
Yeah. I,
So,
I could see where that would be so fun because I think they're National Geographic books that we got as hand-me-downs from a friend. And we got 3 of them, and they're all these like weird but true facts. And they're very visual. Each page has a picture, and then I'll have maybe one fact. But my son like just absolutely love like he'll throw it into social conversations, even like, did you know so and so did this? Like, or this animal does that. And just this morning driving to school, he's like, Mom, do you know why dogs wag their tail? And I was like, because they're happy? Like, and he's like, no, it's to communicate with other dogs. And I was like, I
oh.
literally had no idea. Well, and I was like, where did you learn that? He's like, oh, the Weird But True book. I was like,
It's yeah, exactly the same. Yeah, it's just so interesting, and then they're hooked, and then they find another piece of
yeah.
information, or we do more research, and it just starts them off further into their learning journey. So, same thing again. It's highly decodable, less sight words in it, same colored pages, font sizing, and
Okay.
just in all honesty, every kid that I've, got them to read to me with this book, they've all gone, this is really interesting. I'm really
Yeah.
enjoying this journey. And yeah, from there. So
Okay.
that is my other favorite that
I
I
love
always.
that. So that was Crazy Creatures by, is it Gil Arbuthnot?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then what is the last book of the pairing today?
This one is my favorite. Like I mentioned to you, I really like magic and everything. So I read this book 10 years ago, I think, The Discovery of Witches,
Okay.
um, by Deborah Harkness. Now, this book actually got turned into a short TV series.
Okay.
Um, and I just loved it because it had an element of magic. It had an element of, being discriminated against for being different, and also history. I also am a history buff a little bit.
Okay.
Um, but when I was reading the book, I fell so in love with it. It was just so easy to read and you could really engage with the characters. But when I actually saw the TV series as well, I was like, it was so nice for me to see that everything that I read was exactly what was portrayed in the TV series.
Yeah.
And, how everyone reads things and they interpret things sometimes a little bit different, how they see
Hmm.
the characters. And it was just so lovely to see that everything I saw, every emotion, every, concept, I go, everything that I read in the book and I felt in the book, I felt in the TV series as
Oh,
well. And I
that's
was like,
cool.
oh, I love it. So that was really exciting to see
Okay.
my ideas come out as well through the
Yeah.
show.
I have heard of this book. I didn't know had become a TV show. So I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Or a short TV series, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's only 3 seasons, but it
okay.
was, yeah, everything that's in the books are in the TV series, except for the final ending. Everything else, it's nearly right on point. So
Oh, wow. So
it
they did
was
a really good job with producing
they
it then
did an
as well.
amazing job. Yeah, yeah. So, but of course the books are better because you really dive in a lot more.
Yeah.
But it was just nice to see after reading all those books and seeing it come to life from there.
Yeah. So I haven't read this book myself. So is it for a like a YA book or is it more of an adult book? Where would it fit for readers?
Um, oh, look, I don't really see my husband reading it anytime soon.
Sure.
So it's more, yeah, I think it's more directed to females and look really from the age of 19 to 50, really, like
Okay.
anyone's interested in it because it's got your love, you've got, your family, you've got a bit of the past and the problems, and it can be for anyone who's an adult, really.
Okay.
So
All right.
I
I
would
love
read
that.
this again in a heartbeat, like in another 5 or 6 years' time or 10 years' time. It was just such a nice read. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm adding it to my TBR list.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so that was A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. So, how I love to end our show here is with our bonus pairings, which are just a speed round of questions. So, you can answer these really quick. Are you a
Mhm.
rereader?
Yes, I am, but
Okay.
it depends on the book. So I am a rereader when it comes for the Harry Potter books. And also Deborah Harkness books. I have got to say, I've read her books probably 2 or 3 times, and yeah, every time it's just been really nice. But it's only in those series. I'm not a rereader with anything else, really.
Yeah.
So,
I actually have, you can't see it right behind me, but we're collecting, like for each birthday, my son is getting the next like illustrated Harry Potter book.
oh
I think
yeah.
we are now to the age where we could start digging in. I was kind of just accumulating them for his birthdays. It's like, it's always like, oh yeah, get him books, right? Because I want to go back and reread them as well. And these illustrated copies are beautiful. So I was like, I think we should start now that we're talking about this. I'm like, I think 8, we could probably start the first few.
Well, I've just started reading the series again with my son,
Okay.
'cause I'm making him read it. And while he's reading it, there was so many extra little clues that I
Yeah.
go, oh, was that in the book? I I didn't realize that, or
Yeah.
oh, it happened at this stage. I thought it was later. So it's actually been really interesting for him to read it to me, not just me reading it as well. So, and after so long, so it's been really cool. It's
Yeah,
been
and I
really
think to your point, right, that's what makes it like a good reread is there are so many parts of that book and there's so many moving pieces to it that it's not like the same, you're going to maybe get more out of it because you're going to be able to dig
Yeah.
deeper and remember what happened further down and why that clue is there.
Yeah, it's been really, I've really enjoyed, well, him reading it.
Yeah.
It's probably like the fourth time I've read it, but after years and years, but this is the first time in a couple of years that we've read it.
Yeah.
So it's been
Fun.
nice. Been nice.
And then what is one book you've read that has changed your life?
I'd say The Secret Garden.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then where is your favorite place to read?
Like I said, I've got this little nook. We've got it in our study, and I specifically requested this little egg swing chair sort of thing because I didn't really have a place in the whole house to read. I'd read in bed or read on the couch, but it wasn't ever as comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And, I saw this egg chair and I said to my husband, I'm like, this is what I want for Mother's Day. You have to go get it. This is the color and you have to set it up right here. This is where I want it. And he goes,
Yeah.
oh, don't they normally go outside? And I was like, no. It's going in the house. It's my little reading area. But it was turned into my son and myself. We both read in there. So it's our little spot. So it's
I
nice.
love that so much. And then lastly, what are you reading next?
So I'm actually reading this for a student of mine, Oedipus.
Okay.
So it's about, it's a Greek mythology, and his journey, and he has to save his village because everyone's dying and things like that. And I'm actually really enjoying it, even though
Yay.
one of my senior students, she has dyslexia, so reading's really challenging for her and, her comprehending certain concepts. So we're reading it together and I'm explaining certain concepts to her and she's like, I'm really enjoying this. I'm like, me too. I'm really enjoying this.
Yay.
We're having this journey together and it's been really fun. So I haven't read it before, so it's been nice.
Okay. I haven't read it either. Now you've intrigued me.
Oh, yeah, it's a 3-part trilogy, and honestly, I'm just enjoying something different that I haven't read in a while. So yeah.
Well, I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I know your time is precious and I appreciate all you've given me.
No, thank you. It's been absolutely awesome. And yeah, like I said, I have fallen so much in love with reading now that I want to share the journey and just different types of books that parents may not be aware of, or, just to never give up hope on these kids because they'll find their journey. They really will. And they'll find their passion. And
well, thank you. And you're paying it forward, right? Like kind of we were talking about the mentors, like you are taking your journey and you're paying it forward to others. So thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode today with Alexie Better and her dyslexic-friendly book flight. We'd love to hear what other books you'd pair with these books at bookishflights.com. That is also where you can find more information about today's book flight or other books that we talked about. I want to inspire a community of readers. So whenever you share a post about what you are reading or what you are reading next, especially if you have heard about it on the show, please tag us on Facebook or Instagram at Bookish Flights. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Your review not only helps the show, but it also helps the podcast to reach others. Make sure you are subscribed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to make sure you will not miss an episode. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. As Emma Thompson said, I think books are like people in the sense that they'll turn up in your life when you most need them. Cheers to you, dear readers. Until next time.